Uche is a highly accomplished financial markets executive with over 20 years of experience specializing in treasury management, fixed income trading, and investment portfolio management within Nigeria's financial services sector. He has a proven track record across leading institutions, including Standard Chartered Bank, Titan Trust, Diamond Bank, with key expertise in liquidity management, balance sheet strategy, and large-scale acquisitions. His core skills cut across assets and liabilities management, derivative structuring, relationship management, regulatory capital management, and optimizing investment portfolios for business growth. He's an alumnus of the University of Lagos, so you can call him a great acolyte in economics and an MBA in financial management. He is a member of the Financial Market Dealers Association, FMDA, the Association of Financial Professionals, and a resident examiner for the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN. With a round of emoji applause, please give our speaker a round of emoji applause as we welcome him to take the mic and lead us in this insightful session.
It's good to be with young and great people. I must say that I still feel like a very young man, maybe a young boy. Just last week, I had to coil my hair in a manner that somebody looked at me and said, are you Gen Z? I said, I'm Gen Z in a millennial cloth, right? So first of all, thanks everyone. It's good to have you guys here, and it's good to be in your midst. I like the topic. First of all, I like the team that's put this together, Youth of Enterprise. I think they're fantastic people. It's a beautiful concept, and it's something that we should be very proud of. If there's anything I say to young people is that the level of skill acquisition and mentoring that some of us had the benefit and the privilege of having when we started our journey, life in itself has tweaked it in a manner that we have not helped the next generation coming to receive that level of foundation. And so I think this is very profound that we can have fantastic people coming together to do something this honorable and this worthy. So I must say thank you to the team. Thank you for the privilege of being here to speak to you guys. What's the topic? Turning your vision to action, executing your career goals. Now, I'll try and be calling names, and I'm apologizing ahead of time. So I have to see everybody's name. So I might mention your name, and then your mic might be unmuted, so you could say one or two things, right? But I will try and go to the slide. If it's okay to bring up the slide, we'll just talk about a couple of things. I think I have about 30, 40 minutes, and I'll be out of your beautiful faces to face some other things today. So what's a vision, right? When you talk about a vision, in the corporate world, they will say that your vision is what you want to achieve, and your mission is how you go about achieving the vision, right? So at different times, different people have completely different career visions, what they want to do. Sorry, can I have my slide up? If it's okay.
Yes, it's coming up in the next few seconds.
So
we'll just...
for each of us, our work vision or our career vision is completely different. And I'll tell you a little story of myself. My father was a banker for very many years, but while running his banking career, realized if he retires, what can he do? So he went to study law and went to law school and said he could practice law. And so he resigned and started practicing law. But I grew up with a mindset of, I like the way the bankers operate and all of that. And I think I wanted to be a banker. So my final year book, and some of us will know that we have this final year book where we try to write what we want to do, what our aspirations, our goals are, where we think we're going to be, where life is going to take us. And then I wrote there, I wanted to be a successful banker, right? So at that time in my journey, being a banker was the vision, right? And it was vague to my mind because what success means, or success is very relative to different people at different times, right? And so for me, thank you very much. Slide is on. I think we should put it on slideshow so that it's easier, right? So for me, my vision was to be a successful banker. Now I'm going to open up the floor, and I need a couple of people. I'm not going to call names at this point, but I need us to write on the chat, what is your career vision? What is your career goal? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to be known for? If I type your name on Google, what do I want Google to say about you in another 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years, right? So can we quickly take 10, 15, 20 seconds, just write on the chat box, what is your career vision? And this has to be very personal. Some of you might want to be bankers, some analysts, some, I don't know, medical doctors, lawyers, content creators, whatever it is, right? So just write for me very quickly. I want to read out some of the career goals or visions. Fantastic. Somebody said, I want to become an AI. Sorry, I need to be able to get good. So someone said, I want to, oh, sorry, where is it? I'm trying to read. I just saw somebody's message. Okay, good. Someone said, I want to become an AI and project management specialist, especially AI automation. Someone said, I want to be a successful entrepreneur. Yes, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Right. And I like the word successful, right? Because I'm going to zero into that for a minute. Because when we use the word successful, success will mean different things to different people. Someone said, I want to be a successful banker. Okay, so Paul, I can see myself. That's fantastic. Someone said, the biggest agripreneur in the South. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Someone said, I want to be a lawyer, right? And of course, being a lawyer, yeah, various fields you can zero into, say, being a commercial lawyer, being a marine lawyer, or whatever it is, right? But there are quite a number of things you see here. Now, and thanks for the guys, just keep dropping, right? So first, you must have a bit of clarity what you want to be, what your goals are, what you want to achieve. And someone said, I want to be an educationist. And let me say this here. So in my final year book, I also wrote, I wanted to be a successful banker and then retire into lecturing. So I think I'm seeing a couple of people. And so some of these opportunities just reminds me that after the 9 to 5 drama of being a banker and then I'm getting out of the way, what next can I do, right? And so I'm trying to learn, how do I speak to people? How do I impart knowledge? How do I get people to move from one spot where they are to another spot where they want to be? So let's go to the next slide, right? And I'll just talk through how we can then move from just being where we are currently to where we want to be. Now, I've used an example in this presentation, which is, can we go to the next slide, please? I've used an example in this presentation, which is where I am today. I am an intern, right? Where I am today, I am an intern, and I can be an intern anywhere, in any field and all of that. But within the next 5 years, where do I want to be? And I said, I want to be an analyst, a market analyst, right? So which means there is a gap between where I am at the moment and where I want to be next. And if you think about it, when you got into school, you probably had the mindset of those of you that wanted to come out with the first class, some wanted to come out with the 2-1, some said, you know what, I don't want to be a first class graduate. I'm just okay to have my 2-2 and I can do other things and stuff like that. I do not think there's anybody that went to school to want to come out with a pass. That's my sense. But I think people just find themselves in the first 3 cadres, whether it's the first class or second class upper or a second class lower, right? So that's you saying from when you got admitted, this is where I'm at. Now, getting a first class means that's where you want to get to. That's your vision. Between where you are and where your vision is, There are a lot of things that needs to happen. There are a lot of things that you need to factor. There are a lot of things that you need to do, right? And so we'll try to journey through where we are at and where we want to be and how do we get to where we want to be, right? Like I said in this presentation, I've assumed that the goal is to be a market analyst. So the goal could be anything. And so you can key in where I've put market analyst. You can say you want to be a successful agri entrepreneur. You could want to be aeronautic engineer. You could want to be a successful software engineer. You could want to be a successful AI project analyst and all of that, right? So there has to be clarity. Where do I want to be? And so I've said two things. First, what is required to become what that career vision is? It has to be clear. What is not written, what is not known cannot be achieved, right? So there must be clarity as to where I want to become. Now, this is, I saw at the beginning when we talked about the icebreaker, and some people said one of the icebreakers is lack of funds and all of that. I'm here to say to you, the least of your problems is funds, right? Now, there's also a mindset that says, oh, you need to have the right connection and all of that. Again, I'm going to demystify that to say the right connection is very relative. And I'll try to plug in the various steps I took in my career. And by the way, understand this, right? We could talk about all the steps and we could talk about all the fantastic things you should do. But I believe in one thing. We can do everything that needs to be done, but there is always a factor that is bigger than what you do and how you do. And that factor in itself is a God factor. And it has nothing to do with your religion or anything. There are certain things that are tied to divine providence, whether you want to admit it or not. But there are certain other things that we need to do. And I read economics, I will say ceteris paribus, which means all things being equal, you will land where you want to get to, right? So the first point is having clarity. Now, like I said, I wanted to be a banker. That meant that getting into the banking industry when I started in 2005, first I had to say to myself, is there an age gap? And at that time, there was an age limit, right? So if you're more than 22, 23, 24, maybe 25, then it becomes slightly tricky to leave NYC and just go straight into mainstream banking. So I knew that before I went into school. So it became very important to me that I had to be within the age bracket if I had to start my career as an executive trainee. So what does that mean? It means that for you to key into your vision, you need to understand what is required to operate in that career path. Any industry or any career path that you have chosen to take, there must be clarity why you are in that career path, and you must understand what is the requirement if I have to be successful in this field. It's very important that once you've identified what your vision is, you must be able to tell what are the requirements if I have to operate in this industry. Now, in my time, age was one thing that was very important. The second thing that was extremely important was qualification, right? So a couple of banks will say either you have a first class or a 2-1. As a matter of fact, some banks will say you had to have come from this kind of university or that kind of university, right? But your age and your qualification was important. So I knew if I had to be successful, then I had to have a first class or a 2-1. Anything short of that will mean that I will lean on maybe the connections that my parents or siblings had. And interestingly, my father was very clear then, Uche, I'm not going to work any connection if you don't meet the minimum requirement. The minimum requirement is to have a first class or a 2-1. So my part was cut out for me. I had to do my part of the bargain if I was going to get if I was going to get my career started, right? And so it became very clear to me we had to do that. So again, a number of us have written, I studied biochemistry, I want to be a researcher, I want to be an entrepreneur, a digital content creator, a creative, and all of that. Every field has its requirement. And so when you are setting a career path or a journey between 0 and 5 years, your 0 point is where I'm at now. What are the requirements for success in the field that I want to journey? It's extremely important. Now, in this slide, I've said, if you have to become a market analyst, then you need to be able to understand what the market trends, competitive landscape, data-driven insight, supporting strategic business decisions, and all of that, right? So you have to have clarity what you want to do and then what you want to be known for. I'll tell you a story. When I started my career, I started in the branch as an operations staff, right? So I was just doing cash and teller. You come into the bank, you bring your voucher, you pay your cash and all of that. Now, there was so much risk involved in that. But at that time, when I started, I had a number of people that had a lot of experience in cash and tellering, right? And so there are two key KPIs. One is no cash shortage. Two is the number of customers that you attend to per month. And then they were going to crown who the best teller was at the end of the month, just looking at your teller count and all of that. And I said to myself, I was young. I was 23 years old at that time. And then I had people that were 30, 32, 33 doing these things. And I said, no, I had the energy. I had all of that. I needed to be the best cashier within my first 3 months. And then guess what? So when people come into the branch, I had to say to the branch manager, is it okay for me to listen to music while I'm attending to them? And he says, as long as it doesn't distract. So I had an ear pod in my ear. It wasn't very visible, right? But I could hear the client. And I just tried to find a way to enjoy doing what I'm doing. So sometimes while everybody's sitting, I'm standing, I'm trying to attend to them. I see there's a queue. I just go out and say, okay, I'm trying to be fast, but yet very detailed. And guess what? In the 3rd month, I won the best teller in the branch. And everybody was surprised. Who is this young guy that just came in and he won the best teller in the branch and all of that? And then they threw me into a test. They brought a dot check, right? A dot check is a counterfeit check. And so as a teller, you must be able to identify if a check is real or if a check is counterfeit, or else you pay a counterfeit check, then you would have succeeded in defrauding a customer, and it comes with a lot of implications. So the branch manager then said, I want to see, brought every teller, and everybody in the branch, and then brought real checks and mixed it up with one dot check and asked everybody to identify it. Now, again, this is the part where I say that there are certain things that is not just about skill or anything. There's a bit of divine providence. And so I went through all the check. Everybody went through the check, and nobody, and I'm serious here, nobody identified the dot check. But it was very interesting. I felt each of the check leave, right? And then when I got to the dot check, I realized that that check was lighter in my hand. The feel was lighter than every other check. So I brought out that particular check and said to the branch manager that I think this is the dot check. He said, why? I said, aside from the fact that the feel is completely different from every other check, and the watermark seems very funny compared to every other check. Meanwhile, he had put a mark somewhere to be able to identify it. So he held the check, looked at it, he saw his mark, and he said, wow, I was the only one that identified that check. And that day, they moved me from tellering and moved me to customer service. 1 year later, I moved to branch management, right? Just by that singular act, right? Why have I told you this story? Because it's one thing to be able to identify where you want to get to, but it's another thing to be able to tell exactly what you need to do to get there. Now, our worlds are different. What I was willing to do as a young 23-year-old guy, if I take a young 23-year-old person today, they're probably not thinking the way I was thinking back then. I just want to come to work, get my job done, be excellent at that. I think this generation is quite different because of what technology has done, the evolution of technology. At that time, I was going to write a check with my bare hands. Today, you don't require your bare hands. You probably will have to sit down and then run the check through the system, and the printer was going to generate it, and then you run, right? So the point for me here is what makes the difference between your vision All right, starting the vision or getting your vision out there and achieving your career goals or your career vision within the time frame you've stipulated is knowing where you are at and recognizing what needs to be done to get to where you want to get to. And then having the willingness, now say that again, having the willingness to do what is required to get to where you want to get to. Now, I want us to do something very quickly. For as many of us that have written what our vision is, right? The next question I'm going to ask you is to write out for me very quickly, what do you think you require? What do you think you require to become what you say you want to become? I need you to write that down before we go to the next slide. Very quickly, take a couple of seconds. What do you think, in your own view, what do you think is required to be a great researcher? What do you think is required to be a wealth manager? What do you think is required to be a digital entrepreneur? What do you think is required to be a banker? What do you think is required to be a software engineer? What do you think is required to be an educationist? What do you think is required to be a successful a pharmacist or own a pharmaceutical company? What do you think is required to be a beautician, right? What is required to be a data analyst? I want you to write that down very quickly. Come on, guys. Or I'll start calling names. Someone say work-life balance. Trust me, work-life balance, we'll talk about that, right? Someone said good exposure and mentorship. Okay. Now, what I want is something a lot more concrete, because work-life balance, somebody needs to give you that. The environment needs to give you that. Good exposure and mentorship, it sounds more to me like what you require, right? What I want to see is, for you to be successful, what do you think you need to do? What task is required of you? What energy is required of you? What input is required of you to get to where you want to become, right? That's what I want to see. Skill, consistency, mindset. I love that. I love that. I love that. Discipline, intense discipline, skill, exposure, opportunities to prove yourself. Fantastic. I like that. I like that. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. I'm going to start to call names now. I'm going to start to call names, right? Certification, master degree, PhD, where we're going to talk about that for a minute, right? Because trust me, in the world that we live in, you'll probably realize at some point that all of the qualifications, masters, PhD, DIC, whatever it is, sometimes it helps you to seek an employment, but it really doesn't help you to advance, right? Clarity of direction, relevant skills, discipline, consistency, less distraction, more discipline, and daily intentional goal. So Bello, tell me, what's your career vision? Tell me.
My career vision, sir. Currently, I'm learning AI automation. I'm already a Python developer.
Okay.
Currently a Python developer.
A Python, say that again.
You said, sir?
No, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Yes, sir. I'm currently now, I'm a Python developer.
Python developer. Fantastic.
Yes,
fantastic. Okay. But ultimately, you want to go into AI?
Yes, AI automation.
AI automation.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
What I want to go
now
in 2026. By God grace.
Hopefully, you are looking at getting into the AI world and start to think about AI automation. And I think that's very fantastic. Oguni, I'll get to you very quickly. I think that's very fantastic, because you are veering into the world that is the game changer. In my office today, they say everybody must be an AI expert or you find your way out, right? So AI is the in thing, AI is the big thing. Now, my next question will be, what do you need to do to upscale your AI capabilities? What do you think you need to do? Do you have clarity as to what you need to do to upscale your AI capabilities to become the AI guru that you want to be in the near future? Do you have an idea?
Yes, sir. I just need guidance and mentorship. That's what I mostly need.
Are you running any programs currently?
No, sir, I'm on my own. I'm actually on my own. I just take courses on Udemy online and some YouTube. That's where
Okay,
I mostly learn my
okay,
things.
okay. So this is what I'm going to say to you, right? I think first of all, you need to take courses on AI, and there are quite a number of courses, not very expensive courses that you need to take on AI, right? Because that's
Yeah.
one area that is a big deal. As a matter of fact, is a major game changer. And I'll tell you something. This slide. So I called my colleague and I said, I went. So we have what we call AI. There's an AI platform in my office, and then I threw the topic in, and it brought a couple of stuff together, and then I sent it to a partner of mine. And I said, "Can you move this into PowerPoint for me?" And guess what? In less than 30 minutes, I got a first draft of it. I was like, "Wow, I could not have put this together in 3 hours, right?" So
Yeah.
I think you're
Wow.
on the right side, but it's important that you take the courses that are required, because there are courses. It's not just about YouTube. It's not just about what you find. There are deliberate courses that you must take and you must understand. And for you to be successful around that, you must be very good in physics and you must be very good in maths. These are things that are very, very important as you journey through
Yes,
that. So
yes, I
thank
study
you very.
mathematics in
Oh,
my
fantastic. So you're on the right path.
study.
You're on the right path. So it's clear you need to be able to say to yourself, if I need to get to the top of it and be an AI consultant and be an AI guru, I need to upskill myself and all of that. So thank you, Ben. I'm going to go very quickly to, I
Thank you,
think
sir.
Oguni has the hands up. Please go ahead, Oguni. Go ahead very quickly. Go ahead, Oguni. Can you mute Bello, please? Can we mute Bello? And then Oguni, please go ahead. Hello? Can you hear me, Oguni? Okay, maybe let's go back to the presentation, and then if Oguni gets to me, then we can take Oguni. Can we get back to the slide? Right? Thank you. So the next slide. The next slide. I think she's still mute. Can we unmute Oguni, right? Okay. Anyway, until we're able to get Oguni back to be able to speak, right? So the next thing I said is, like Bello has said, and then Temitope has said also, we need to be able to tell where are we at right now, right? For Bello, he's currently trying to learn how to work on Python, which is a very important IT software capability. It's required in banking and a lot of other fields, right? And at the same time, he's trying to learn how to use the AI and develop himself. For Temitope, she's currently a microbiologist, and she's already thinking of what I need to do, which area of microbiology I want to zero into, right? So which is why I said, that is your starting point. This is where I'm at, right? And what are my strengths? What do I have? Now, remember again, this presentation is based off of being a market analyst, but you need to then bring your career vision to say, where are my strengths? You need to know, where do I think I'm good at? I pay attention to details. I'm willing to learn. I kind of speak well. I have an analytical mind and all that. These are skills you need to know. And these are things that nobody can give to you. You need to be able to do the work to say, I think I'm good in this area. I think I'm good in this area. For some people, they've had the opportunity to do presentations and all of that back in school, right? So they are able to speak to the audience, speak to the crowd, transfer knowledge and all of that. When I was in university, I was already taking tutorials, getting the class together and taking through topics and all of that. So I knew at some point I was trying to hone my skills in trying to becoming a lecturer much later in my career and all of that, right? So there are soft skills you need to develop as you go down the road, which are your innate strengths, what you think you can bring to bear in that area or that career path that you have chosen for yourself. The next slide, please. I need to run very quickly because I think time is not on my side. But let's get to the next slide very quickly. So now we have an idea across each of our functions where we are at and what strengths we have in terms of what we think we can put on the table. Can we go to the next slide, please? Let's get to the next slide very quickly, which will be, so Once you picked up your strengths, then the next question you need to ask yourself is, where do I have my gaps, right? Now, why is that gap very important? It's important because the difference between where you are and where you are going to is your gap that you need to fill. For example, when I started my banking career, and then 3 years after, I had to transition into financial markets, what I'm doing right now. And because I read economics, I was able to appreciate how inflation runs, how interest rate runs, exchange rates, and all of that. And I said to myself, Uche, within the next 10 years, I desire to become the treasurer of the bank, right? Now, I was just a simple analyst in treasury in 2007, right? 2 years after my banking career. And I'm saying by 2017 or 2018, by 2008, I was saying by 2018, I wanted to become a treasurer. Now, that was a very big deal because I was just an officer at this time, and 10 years was required for me to move from being an analyst to becoming a treasurer. And so there were a lot of things that needed to happen. I needed to upskill technically. I needed to acquire certification. I needed to have business and market knowledge. I needed to know who are my stakeholders, what are the requirements to move from where I am to where I want to become. That's where your development gap is. Now, you need to be able to understand in your industry, what are the development gaps? For example, if you ask me what my 5-year goal is from today, I'll say to you point blank, and I say it everywhere I go to, that my 5-year goal is to become an executive or the CEO of a commercial bank. That is my 5-year goal. Now, where am I at right now? For me to become that, I know that I have to become an executive or become a board member of a bank for me to become a CEO, because that's what the regulation of the central bank says. So that tells me I need to become an executive. I'll position myself to become an executive if I want to achieve that. It also means that I need to be able to understand the rules of engagement. I need to be able to know who my stakeholders are, how to manage and conduct myself in the boardroom, in the executive room. I need to be able to understand that everybody have different goals. How do I align my goals with their goals? And how do I make sure that I'm able to achieve with them what I need to achieve? So just understanding what is required in your world and in your space, right? If I'm going to become a CEO, I know that my introvert nature, when I'm done from work, I want to be home. I don't want to be out there and all of that. That has to change. I need to be able to connect with clients. I need to be able to connect with regulators. I need to be able to connect with people. My human relation has to change. My personality has to change. I need to be a lot more subtle. I need to be a lot more intentional. My intensity level has to change, which means I need to identify my gaps right now. In 2024, I was offered an executive director position in the bank, but I said to myself, Uche, do you have the maturity and the tenacity to be able to run as executive director? I sincerely said to myself, Uche, the answer is no. I need to go and upskill. So I declined that offer. And that's me being true to myself to say, it's better to take on a position and succeed than get an elevation and fall off. You need to be very true to yourself. You need to be very intentional with yourself, right? So where are you at? Where do you want to get to? It's not that straight to just say, oh, I want to be there. I have my father's connections. Ladies and gentlemen, your connection can get you to the door. Your connection cannot keep you in the room. Your personality, your skill level, your capacity will keep you in the room. And this is not about generational gap. This is not about the world that we live in. This is the reality of life. And I want that to sink in real time. Whether you want to work from home, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, once you want to relate with people, it means you need to sell value. You can't sell value from a place of fear. You can't sell value from a mediocre level. You can't sell value from an unskillful level. You can only sell value based off of what you have acquired and what you have. People don't pay for your time. People don't pay for your face. People don't pay for your connection. They pay for your value. How you become what you want to become is value. Value comes from leverage. Leverage is what you have that you can give to get what you want. And in the world of very murky waters where a lot of things happen and all of that, for you to be able to stand out, you need to be able to say to yourself, what skills do I have? But hear me, ladies and gentlemen, your skill could carry you far, but your personality is what is required at certain levels of your career journey to make you stand out. You are as valuable as you are perceived. Your valuation is a function of their perception. So two people can develop a software and two people will go and sell the software. The software may do the same thing, but the perception of the buyer to your personalities will make the difference. And so I learned technical skill is not enough. Professional skill is not enough. Market knowledge is not enough. Your personality and your discipline and intensity makes the difference. I learned that firsthand from a fall. I bounced back, I rose again, and I moved higher in my career, but I learned one point. One fall, one mistake doesn't define you, but you must learn from it. When you want to deal with people, whether it's in the service world, whether you're a business person, whether you want to work in the pharmaceutical industry and all of that, it is important to understand that you need the right skill, you need the right professional qualification, you need the right business environment, you need the right exposure, but trust me, you need the right personality. Who you are matters. How you relate with people matters. How people feel when you leave them matters. Your 0 to 12 months of your career journey, you need to build core skills. You need to build foundational skills. Core and foundational skills. You need to be able to say, if I'm going to be a lecturer, you can't be an introvert and you fear stage and you want to be a lecturer. No, you can't do that. You need to be able to speak to people. You need to be able to have strong personality, right? Strong personality to be able to lecture to people. You can't be a developer and not be a thinker. You can't say to me you want to sleep 10, 12, 15 hours and you want to be a developer. Hello? Doesn't work that way. You can't say you want to be a business person and you sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning and you close your shop by 4 o'clock. Hello? It doesn't work that way. If you want to be a business person, then you must be a salesperson. So it means you must have good interpersonal relationship. So your 0 to 12 years roadmap, you need to build core personal skills. When you move from your 12 years, it's like a child that is born and you're going to take some first, you will not start to speak from day one, and then you cry whenever you need something, and then you crawl before you start to walk, before you start to run. For some of us, we want to start from day one and we want to fly. Hello, it doesn't work like that in real life. The next level is, now that I have the foundation, it's like you're building a house. You don't build a house from the roof. You build a house from the foundation. If you want to build a bungalow, then your foundation can be shallow. If you want to build a story building, one-story building, your foundation is to go lower. But you also need to understand your foundation is a function of the topography of the land that you are building on. If you are building on a hard land, then you probably don't need to have a very strong, you can use blocks and cement and a bit of granite and iron rod. If you are building on a swampy location, like if you're on the island, then you need to know you're not talking about blocks, but blocks. You're going to use complete granite, iron rod, real strong iron rod, and you need to dig deep. And if you want to build skyscrapers, then before you start building your foundation, you need to go and do your soil test. Your soil test will tell you the kind of soil that you are doing and all of that, right? So you need to have clarity. That's your foundation. Then when you build a foundation, you need to start putting on what the kind of your building blocks and all of that. That's your 1 to 3 years. That's when you now start to talk about the discipline, the mentorship, feedback, and all of that. You need to be able to volunteer. Let me tell you something. Where I work right now, they always say to me, Uche, you are in charge of treasury markets in Nigeria. However, I'm not going to pay you bonus just because you are dealing with Nigeria well, because Nigeria needs to feed into the ultimate plan of where the group is, because I work with an international bank. So doing Nigeria alone is not enough. It's not going to cut it. I need to see how you raise up your hand and do more for the group. And so, for example, in the last 1 week, I came under very intense pressure because the group had a regulatory issue, and I had to oversee Africa and say, what can Africa do to help the group achieve that? And then we had about 2 billion of a transaction we had to claim. And I said to myself, if Africa can deliver 1.2 of that amount or 1.3 of that amount, then that's fantastic. I had to make sure that Nigeria delivered 1 billion of that 2 billion. So I got celebrated at, oh, Nigeria did 1 billion of the 2 billion. But then I had to coordinate with the other African countries to say, what more can we do? If Africa provides the entire 2 billion, that puts us on the map. And so nobody can call us mediocres anymore. We are not just doing what we need to do in the country level, but we are doing what we have to do at the regional level and at a group level. And that became a game changer. So even though we did something locally, what we did locally moved all the way to the group, and that became a game changer. So those are the kind of things where you raise up your hand to say, I think I can participate in this. I'm willing to take on this. Let me tell you guys, in becoming a treasurer, I needed 3 things. First, I needed to know how to trade, right? Secondly, I needed to know how to sell. Third, I needed to know how to manage the balance sheet. And so sometime in my journey, my treasurer said, Uche, I'm going to take you out of trading, and I needed to go and resolve this balance sheet issue of 30 years. It was one of the most nonsensical jobs that I hated. But hear me, 3 years after, I got hired because of my understanding of those 3 years of mess. What I have done between 2018 and today, that 3 years of mess accounted for a significant portion of my job and of my trajectory. When you get to your 5 years, by the time between your 1 to 3 years, you know that what you are trying to do is taking on more, learning on the job, dealing with people. When you get to your year 5 and you achieve your goal, it's no longer a mistake. I have never known a runner or anyone that competes in a competition and succeeds and said, oh, wow, it is luck. Guy, it does not happen that way. There's intentionality. Cristiano Ronaldo did not just become one of the best players in the history of football and one of the oldest players still playing just by sleeping in his house. No, he had to do the grind. You have to do the work. You have to play your part. Whether you are Gen Z, you are Gen Alpha, you are Gen Beta, you are Gen whatever you want to gen yourself, there is a part where we need to do the work. We need to upscale ourselves. Success is very, very intentional. I want to say something here. Now, the number of partners I talked about, from your managers to your mentors, right? And so people, there are different ways of mentorship and all of that, just getting guidance, skill, people that have succeeded in your field, and then you can reach out to them and they can mentor you, help you, give you constructive and regular feedback. The organization where you work or your business can also provide a form of partnership, access to training. Now, I must say that because of how the world has changed, organizations are not particularly invested in training people, but you must take your own training journey on yourself, learn on the job and all of that, and then take your ownership of your learning, be proactive about your career journey. Who you become, what you become, where you end up in your career path starts off with defining your vision, your goal, where you want to get to, the strengths that are required, and what the support that you need on the direction you want to follow. You need to be able to identify the skills required, the experiences that you require, and you must be very objective about it, very objective about it. You cannot put your career in somebody else's hands. It cannot be your boss's hands. It cannot be in the hands of the organization. It cannot be. And you cannot journey in your career from the place of fear. You must have very clear roadmap, short, medium, long-term roadmap. Must be very clear. Must be very clear. And you must appraise it from time to time. Tweak it based off of the dynamics in your environment, in your business world, the changes, because the world is changing, right? We were not talking about AI before now. Now we are talking about AI, which means that your organization or your bosses will expect you to turn out reports very quickly. AI will help you to do that. So you need to upskill yourself because that's the world we're in. So whilst you draft your roadmap must be fluid enough for amendment, detours here and there, right? And you must be committed to learning, acquiring the right skill, identifying the right opportunities, and taking the right opportunities. Identifying the right opportunities and taking the right opportunities. At the end of that, I'm going to conclude this conversation by saying two things. One, your technical competency, skill, and all of that is very, very important in your journey. But your personality, your people skill, your mindset, and ultimately your belief system is the icing on the cake that will cap your success. And that will be the end of my presentation. And I think we can go to Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone. There's a particular comment I find interesting, and I think I want to just quickly address very quickly.
Okay, sure,
and
please.
I think it's a fair point, right? Somebody wrote here, and I find quite amazing. So first of all, I must apologize. I said, I think it was Emmanuel Bernard. He said, it was all quite insightful. Just wish he had covered goals that are more in the category of self-employment. And I'll try to address that very quickly, right?
All right.
I've been a career person all my life, right? But my wife has been a self-employed person, and I've had to relate with people that are self-employed, right? And the way I see self-employment, I put self-employment in the category of an entrepreneur, right? Because to be self-employed means you are delivering a service. And so you have a business. That's what it is. You're not going to sit there in the house. You're running a business. So whether you are working for an organization or you have a business, whether it's a small kind of business, for some people it's coaching, for some people is something as simple as content creation. A content creator is self-employed. For some people, they're just doing skits and all of that. Whatever category of employment that you find yourself, what is very important is understanding what are the success factors in that area. If you wake up tomorrow and you say you want to be a farmer and you want to be a rice farmer, you must be able to say to yourself, what is required to be a rice farmer? When I harvest my rice, who do I sell it to? Who are my target audience? So you must always start from what do I want to do, right? What line of business do I want to venture into? And that's the most important thing. And whatever business you want to venture, there are rules of engagement. There are success factors in that line of business. Whether you want to go, my younger brother, for example, sat and said he wanted to go into scrap business. So you take all of these, your scrap, broken chairs and all of that, and they can recycle it and grind it and sell it into raw material. So I said to him, if you want to start to do scrap business, first point you need to ask yourself is, what's the kind of turnover you get in your scrap business? How much money is in the scrap business? Where do you source your materials from? Who do you sell those materials to? Who is going to buy from you? The point for me in summary is to say, whatever line of business you want to do, you need to be able to have clarity. What is required in this business? What do I need to do? Who do I need to partner with? Can I go solo, or do I need the level of partnership? Do I need to understudy somebody? Do I need to work with somebody, learn the ropes before I veer into becoming my own employer and then start to employ people? What do I need to see from people that I need to work with and all that? So it's a building block, and the principle remains the same, right? What skill you require, who you need to meet, what you need to know. And I think at the end of the day, you'll be able to find a level or a path that you can follow that will help you land where you want to land. So that's where I'm going to end that. Thank you.
We are social. Follow the Youth of Enterprise on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. Here we share resources. We share valuable resources and information about the program, and also the mother brand EnterpriseNGR.